Hello, Lisa. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Of course, of course. Like I said, I'm extremely flattered for the opportunity and I'm excited to share some of my experiences and hopefully someone can benefit from it.
Exactly. Yeah, we do believe in the power of sharing experiences and sharing stories, and the audience and listeners can take quite a bit away from them, right? And they can reflect on their own stories based on what they hear. So we always appreciate leaders like you who are generous enough to share the time and stories. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So to get going, bit about yourself, please, Lisa. What you do, who you are.
Well, I often I joke a little bit. It's that I'm a serial volunteer and a little bit of a recovering HR business partner, mainly from the employee relations part. But there's so many other parts of human resources that I still enjoy. But I'm currently, I guess my paying job is working for the state of Utah as their local veteran employment representative. And so I'm a statewide resource. I work with employers and different organizations that have an interest in hiring, training, and developing from the military veteran community. So
Right. Then in that role, what would your day-to-day life look like?
that's a really good question. It varies. There's days, well, like I even in the same day, I could be at maybe like I've been to a homeless event in the morning. And then in the evening, I'm going to like some advocacy gala or something. And so it'll be, from one spectrum to the other. I mean, no day is typical, I would say. But a lot of things I'm doing, I'm watching out for employers that are hiring. And those are typically the things I'm looking for or opportunities to partner with other organizations that while the target is military veterans, it is beneficial for everyone. And so while it has that, it's kind of like when you go see one of those the wheelchair ramp for a building. It's accessible and easy for everyone to use, but the intent was for people with wheelchairs. And so when I think about what I do, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of like I'm ramping up, I guess. I'm always trying to tee things up so we can be successful and help impact people's lives in a good way.
So mainly then more of a external parties facing them rather than internal employees.
Right, right. Yeah, so I'm more of an external resource, often partnering with like organizations and they're always and I'm creative and so I can always find the common thread where we can be working together. And so I mean the possibilities are endless. I think it's just dependent on how wild your imagination can be.
How did you get into that space?
Well, you can kind of see behind me. I am a Army veteran, and I served for about 6 years. I was a chaplain's assistant in the Army, and I served for about 6 years, and that really got me into wanting to be someone who's helpful and a resource for people in general. And while I wasn't providing specific, like I provided opportunities for people, it really hasn't, my mission hasn't really changed. And I've always found that, like the common thread, I was like, What am I going to do after I get out of the Army?" And I've been a chaplain assistant for 6 years. And so one thing that, one of my first roles was an office manager. And that was great. I worked for a construction company for a while. And then I started learning more about human resources. I think I took a class in college and I'd already been interested. But then whenever I saw, I was like, wait, I can help people. I don't feel like social work is not for me, but I like to be a kind person, but I also want to give people tools to help them improve their life and empower them to do that. So this has just been a common thread throughout my life, through my paying jobs and my also the volunteer things, my serial volunteerism. And if anybody wants to steal that term, I love it because I think I may have overheard somebody else say it and then it just stuck. And so it's been one of those things I say
Y-
often.
y-
And
y-
But it's true, it's true. And it all started like I volunteered for the Army, and then I keep like in addition to paying jobs, I'm like, oh, where there's a need, it's like, if not me, who better? Or if I don't step up, at least I can get it started. Hopefully, I can raise I call them the ugly babies sometimes. Sometimes they're beautiful babies. It's a getting up and going is often the hardest part for most people. And so if I'm like, I'm shameless, if I think someone could do it better and they are wanting to do that, then I'm like, come on in. Let's join forces. And if you think you can do it better than me, by all means, please go right ahead.
Which organizations currently are you involved with volunteering?
Okay, so with the military, I'm involved with the Salt Lake Chamber quite a bit. I was voted 2025 military friendly Utah Veteran of the Year.
Oh, congrats.
I know. I was like, that's pretty dang cool. I guess I'm really good at being a veteran. The soldier stuff, that was hard. Yeah. So being a veteran is I guess it's a more dynamic, but also very challenging role. And then I was talking and then I was like, I was going into it and I'm like, wait, that's all flew out of my mind. But yeah.
The dogs behind you, is that the little bit of a fun way to do personal branding along with your last name and all?
Yeah, I very much embrace the duck because my last name's Duckworth. There's probably not the most PC story I could share, but as a kid, my mom used to call me Ducky often. And then growing up, and then I happened to meet and marry Mr. Shane Duckworth. And so here I have, I've been a Ducky for pretty much my entire life. And so it's my fabric, I guess, or it's my feathers.
That is interesting, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Utah is beautiful. Are you from there or did you move there?
So actually, I moved here. Oh my gosh, if I say the year out loud, I'm gonna be like, oh, I don't want to give you any dates to try to figure out how old I am. So, but I've been here for quite a while. Originally, I grew up in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, actually at Lackland Air Force Base, and so I've always had, you know, my mother was my favorite military brat, is what I call her, or sometimes people refer to them now as dandelions. I grew up in Texas in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and then joined the Army, met the fabulous Mr. Duckworth, and we've been together ever since. And he's originally from Utah. And so we finished my time in service, but when we were both complete, we decided to move where he was from because he already had like this job lined up. And so it just made sense. I can look out my window right here and I can see, like the downtown Salt Lake City skyline and the Wasatch Mountains. And then just to the other side of me is the Ochre Mountains. So we're surrounded and we're truly in a valley. And it used to feel like country living, but this area has grown so much that I'm city now, like I'm not, if somebody says where I live is in the country, I think I'd have them come visit and I think they'll feel differently.
Yeah,
But it is beautiful. It is
it is.
beautiful here. It's nice to when you're driving somewhere and you feel like you're kind of driving in like a beautiful painting or a postcard you'd send to someone, and it's like I try not to take it for granted because is definitely it's a wondrous thing.
Throughout your paid job endeavor and also volunteer,
Yeah, my past like
yes, you have
your career path, my meander, like I call it over the river and through the woods.
yes. That is the question that at least I have heard from many um, younger generations who are trying to figure out their next step after college or whatnot. Where do I go next? Did you always know where you wanted to end up? Did you always know your direction in your career? My answer to that question is always no. I was darn lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I just tried a whole bunch of different things to figure things out. What was your perspective on that earlier in your career journey?
Well, I think my parents had kind of drilled into my head that education was the key. You know, we I come from humble beginnings. And so, having money to pay for college and all that was just not something that my family could support me with. And so I was kind of, left to my own. And so, my goal, I think I just set small term goals. Like I'm thinking, hey, this sounds kind of good. And then I always, I try to practice what I preach. I've often told many people, if not you, who better? And so I do eat those words regularly.
I love that, by the way.
But it's true. I'm like, if not me or someone else, or if I can help facilitate and empower someone else to do something, then that's what I want to do. And so I try to set, kind of a short yet longish term goals, like I put it out in the universe that one day I may want to be a Dr. Duckworth, PhD, but it's out in the universe. We'll see how that goes and how long it takes, right? Because I've learned that my timelines and life don't always coincide. And there's always like, just anticipate some kind of curveball because that's just life.
Yes,
Life
it is.
throws challenges at you, and the way you respond, not react, is key because you want to think about, okay, is this helping or hindering what I want to do moving forward? And how can I keep the progression? And if I need to stop, that's okay. Or if I need to redirect, that's okay too, because, all this winning or losing thing, that's only in races. That's really, life is not about winning and losing. It's really your definition of success. And so it it's it took a long time to finally wrap my head around that, but that's how I live, and it helps to
Love
get
that
things.
distinction between react and respond. Because a lot of the times, with how fast things just move around us and those random events and expectations on us by others, it is so easy to react quickly as opposed to, yeah, respond.
Definitely. Definitely.
Mhm.
And sometimes that takes a moment. Whenever my first response whenever I hear somebody ask me anything is like, I need to provide a response.
Exactly.
But it's also like, take the time to really think about what you want to say. And sometimes I'll be saying something, I'll like, wait, where was I? So
Yes.
I get lost in a sentence. So I am used to change. And actually, there's lots of times where, you can embrace it and accept that that's just part of life. Or you can keep fighting it, but that's probably not the best for your mental or physical stability.
That is very true. What would be throughout your journey so far one of the most proud moments or most meaningful impact that you generated in your opinion?
This one's kind of a double-edged sword because it was when I think about actually one of my favorite accomplishments that was never on my radar. Because when I got out of the military, it was a tough time for me. My brother had gotten in a really bad accident, and so I had gotten out a little bit earlier than my original time to end. And so one of the things that was important to me was just staying true to who I am. And even though life throws the curveballs at you, is remember, like, you do have some goals, even though it may not happen now, you can navigate it. Okay. And as I'm saying this, I'm like, where am I going with this? But probably one of the coolest things that has kind of come full circle. I don't know. I had one recently. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many. Think about it. I really didn't embrace being a veteran at first. And it was years of being in human resources as a female veteran, getting tapped on the shoulder saying, hey, we need to do something with veterans. You're a veteran and you're in HR. Help us out. And it got to be where at first I was just like, I don't, there was some, just some other things going on. And so I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so eventually, I came to wrap my mind around it. And I had an opportunity when I worked for Intermountain Healthcare to help start their employee resource group. And so my friend Dawn and I, we started the military caregiver resource group at Intermountain Health. And the thing that's really fun and cool about that now is that there are times where they're my partner now. So whenever I'm looking to join up with people in that organization, a lot of times I'll seek out members of that military caregiver resource group that I'm still in connection with and see how we can work together and bridge any kind of gaps that might be there for our military veterans. And then I got one that I'm like, I had this for 5 years. I kept putting it out there that I wanted to. Well, actually, when I got hired, I was supposed to start an employee resource group at a certain employer, which I will not name because it's kind of been like outlawed in a way. I mean, that's putting it very bluntly. But one of the things I was like, well, what else can I do? And I've been very interested, like, I've been following Silicon Slopes since it started. And that's our Utah version of like Silicon Valley.
Right.
And it took a while for that to stick. I remember whenever I would use the term, people would be like, don't say that. That's only for California, and they'd be very defensive and guarded about even using the term. And so I was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll be careful. I'll try to navigate the feelings. But when I started my current job, I was like, what if there was some way we could start a Silicon Slopes military chapter? And, I kind of I put it out there in the universe and reached out off and on. It was difficult because of the pandemic, other things going on, but just kind of kept putting it out there and then finally got the stars aligned. And in the past, I'd say like 3 months, a couple of friends and I were able to get that started. And so I'm super excited. Not sure. I'm excited about the opportunities and the possibilities that it could bring, not just for, veterans, obviously, but or people connected with the military community. But I've found that when you target one, it's often beneficial for everyone. But if we can, if there's some way I can help provide opportunities for those that are interested in being part of Silicon Slopes or part of the community, then I want them to feel like they have a place along with everyone else.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All your belief around just putting it out there.
I know. Sometimes just saying something out loud
Yes.
and the affirmations,
Uh-huh.
it keeps you on track.
Yes.
And it's a getting back to your why. A lot of it. It's like, what's my motivator? Because there's some days where you're like, yeah, I'm motivated. And other days you need to kind of push yourself a little bit because you're like, I'm not seeing the light at the end of this. And I'm not seeing how this is benefiting or how long is this, sometimes there's frustrations. And so being able to still keep that goal in mind, even during the challenging times is helpful.
Totally. Totally. The purpose, right? The purpose that we believe in, that we live for, that definitely helps, especially those hard days.
I know. That's so. And it's hard. And I think boundaries are also important. That's one thing I learned in human resources is that I think I probably went a little bit overboard because they were like, well, when you can be in you have difficult situations and sometimes you have to deliver tough messages to people you genuinely care about and appreciate as a friend. So, boundaries have been important for me to help being able to be that caring person, but also realizing that I heard this in college, is you can't boil the ocean and you can make little changes and positive things incrementally.
I do a 5-minute gratitude journal thingy every day. And the affirmation, everyday daily affirmation, one of the things that I always write down is make 1% progress. Because I tend to get so unhappy and not satisfied with myself on the progress that I made on a daily basis.
Well, and it was a comparison is the thief of joy. It really is.
It is.
You can you can look, I mean, depending on which way you want to look at it, you can always find somebody who's not doing as much as you. You can also find somebody who just looks like they're killing it. And so you've just got to own what you can do and appreciate what you have to offer, even if it's just, sometimes it's just turning the dial up a little bit in a positive way. The dial goes the other way. And you just got to keep remembering that your goal is to keep turning it towards positive.
How many people work there in your organization currently?
Let's see. I know the state of Utah is the largest public employer. And so I believe there's close to 1,000. There's quite a few. And they're hiring all the time if anyone's looking. The thing that's wonderful about it is they're um amazing benefits. Yeah, definitely. I wasn't the best about saving for my 401k. And so with this state, you can elect for retirement benefits and also do 401k. And so I'm not getting any younger. So might as well, when I get older, I don't want to be, having to eat, ramen all the time. That's why, whenever you're broke, you're eating the dollar ramen packets. And so I want to have at least some Kraft mac and cheese whenever I retired. So
How do people, yeah, that is a large number of employees working for an organization. How do folks communicate and
yeah, and actually, I think I don't know what it is. I've gone for other, like Intermountain Healthcare was the largest healthcare organization in Utah as well, and I worked for them. And then I've worked for some very cool organizations, and I love, and I'm proud of my association with them. And like American Red Cross and things. So I was in the chaplain corps, so I was like, I mean, not that I was a chaplain. I saved the spiritual stuff for those who had gone to seminary school because that's definitely and that's a challenging degree requirement that they have of chaplains in the military. Yeah, I feel like I'm just rambling. I could just
no worries, yeah. How do so not just your current employer, but your previous experiences at large organizations, how do they communicate with each other, right? Employees is not just top-down communications these days, right? The horizontal and also down-up communications, quite important and critical for cultural health and whatnot experience, right? So how do you communicate currently?
it's challenging because, when you're part of a big, large matrixed organization, communication, if anything, I tend to over communicate, or at least I feel like I do. Sometimes I feel like I'm over communicating. I'm like, well, maybe they already got this, but I don't know that. So I try to share often and widely. I share within my organization. And then also, I feel like, part of my role is educating the community. And so I also make sure that if I become aware of events, that if there are some kind of community calendars, I'll forward those to the point of contacts I know there. And then I'm often, if someone sends me something and they're like, hey, here's this great opportunity, could you share it with your network? I'm like, I do it immediately if I can. I am right on my LinkedIn and pushing it out. I figured all this information doesn't do me any good if it just stops here. And most people, there's a saying we used to keep you informed and involved as much as appropriate. And I don't think most people are not offended by being informed and involved in something. And in fact, they're very thankful for it often. So I try to be that. It's like I've got my little bullhorn. I'm just repeating the messages that I hear and sharing the information. So I've had people show up at events before that said, "Hey, I'm here because I saw your LinkedIn post," or "Thank you for forwarding me that email," or something.
Nice.
It Yeah, and for me that's a little win, but that little win that they took advantage of the opportunity. I mean, some of those things could be life-changing. And I'm like, let's just share the good, right?
Sounds like you're a connector, Lisa.
Absolutely. I often say I'm a dot connector. Definitely. I'm always,
Yeah.
and it's funny because as a kid, those little pictures they like connect the dots. Remember those?
Yeah. I'm doing it with my big bird.
They were my favorite. I was like, I'm like, don't give me a crossword puzzle, but if, those little connect the dot pictures, and and the thing is, I can see the dots, I guess, sometimes and how they connect where other people don't. And it's been really helpful because sometimes I'm like, I can't believe no one else thought of this. But it surprises me that either they thought about it and they just didn't act on it. I don't know, but someone's got to do it, right?
Yes. What is next for you, Lisa?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I threw I guess I don't know about if Dr. Duckworth's going to be a thing, but I do
I
have
have a
some,
feeling that it's gonna be a thing.
yeah, yeah. I usually hear like, can we afford that? So, but and it's kind of one of those things I'm just like, I just want to do it because I can, and not everybody understands that. And I get it because they're always like, some people are like, well, if I do that, what's my return on investment?
Right.
And for me, the intrinsic rewards would be,
Yes.
that'd be great. But when you're trying to quantify the cost of a doctorate education, that can be a little more tricky. And then I've been kicking around, maybe doing some, I started to file for my own little LLC and do some consulting, and it's kind of a start. It's one of those things that progress and then it just stays and then it moves a little, and it's hard because between the working job and the volunteerism, I don't have a whole lot of free time. So I need to prioritize. And so there are some things that are on my plate now that will be probably changing so I can free up space for better opportunities or more, I guess, different opportunities. So yeah.
Excited for you. And yeah, as I said, I think the doctor Duckworth. Yeah, it's gonna be a thing.
I know I always like, honey, how would it be? Call me Dr. Duckworth. And I was like, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll shout out to my husband, but he's super smart, but he's in like electrical engineering type stuff. Like he can run, like he speaks a whole different language than I do when it comes to that. But I feel like, we all have strengths.
Yes, we do.
And the thing is, you don't have to know everything to be good at something. You can be, like good enough or good at connecting the dots. And people appreciate that. And I know it's been really beneficial for me and just I guess that's what helps me be successful is that if I didn't have the connections, then a lot of this would just fall flat and see the progress.
Well, thank you so much again, sharing your stories and your perspectives and the time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Hopefully, we get to connect again whenever there's opportunity for us to visit Utah. We'll definitely stay in
We put it out there.
touch. Exactly. And hopefully, we get to meet in
Well
person.
I don't think you can pick a wrong place to visit. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit partial to Salt Lake because I'm looking out the window. But there are so many other beautiful growing areas in the state that, actually the growth around the whole, everything's just in a change time. And I'm excited to see where it's going to go and how I can be part of it.
Thank you again. Wish you all the best with all the different endeavors.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Okay.